Hello everybody, welcome back to the Connecticut Driver's License walkthrough video. This is video 5 and the second for our JavaScript. So let's open up code.org and your project, and if you last recall, we had set up the beginning of our JavaScript code. We took it, created the onEvent functions for every single action that a user will have in this application. The first one, the call to action, is a user will enter a name and age, and then upon click, we're saying, please learn more. So it's that first results button that triggers another recipe or function called update decision. Now, that update decision, again, has that triangle here that says it hasn't been declared yet, so we are going to do that now. So stay within the toolbox, stay with the functions section, the green section, and we're going to grab this block right here, the define a function without a parameter. And functions are defined once. They can be called as many times as possible. So normally we put that definition of a function down below at the bottom of our code. Also, let's drag a comment in right above that. And in the comment, we're going to write define update decision function. And one thing I did not mention was comments have these 2 forward slashes in front of them, and they are for us and for the teams that are working on these applications. The JavaScript or the browser itself does not read those comments. So it is good practice to separate your code into sections, take your problem and chunk it down into smaller pieces. So if someone else was working with you or you're on a team, we know now that from line 22 on down is going to be the update decision function recipe, if you will. Okay, so let's think about what we want to have happen first. So the first thing that happens with update decision is we want to gather the name and age that the user types in. Remember, the user will type in name and age first and then click learn more. So what we need to do is go to variables. And variables, the third one down, has an assignment. So let's drag over an assignment variable here. And we're going to call the first variable name. And then on the right-hand side of this, we're going to go back to the UI controls and we're going to ask to get text. So we're going to drag a get text ID in there, and then the ID from the user interface, now we're getting good at this, is going to be the name input. So let's find that. There is name input. So let's talk about what's happening on line 23 here for a second. Basically, the equal sign here does not work exactly like your algebra class. It's actually reading from right to left, and that's true for most programming languages, if not all. What's happening is we're saying get the text from the user and assign that value to a storage area called name in the browser. So variables are the smallest version of retaining data. So again, there's our triangle, and it says, hey, wait a minute, name hasn't been declared yet. So we are using or assigning something to name inside of a function block. You rarely, well, most of the time, you do not want to declare or introduce the variable inside of that block because we want to use it globally throughout the whole program. So what am I talking about here? Well, let's go back to variables. And I want you to think about this as if you were to meet someone for the first time and you make your introductions. You exchange your names. Hi, my name is, shake hands, and that's it. The next time you see this person, you don't go through that process again. You have already met, you already know their names, and now you just carry on like anything else. So we need to actually do the introductions here for the variable name. And global variable declarations occur usually at the top of programming language. or a programming block. So take a look here. The second block down is declare a variable. So let's scroll to the top of our workspace. We're going to grab that second block and bring it at the top here. And VAR is saying, hey, JavaScript or browser, we want to allocate some digital space for something called name. Now we've introduced that kind of, I think of it like a Tupperware container. We've introduced that. We said, hey, this digital space exists. And then down on line 24, we're saying this is where we're going to actually get that information and put it in that digital space called name. Notice now that triangle went away. So we have another variable to work with. Remember, we want to get age. And let's go back to our get text. And hold on a second. Think about this now. Are we getting text? Remember, get text would be a string of characters. And that data type simply gives you back the character keystrokes that you are assigning to it. Well, with age, we want to be able to make some decisions and do some mathematics with that. So we want to bring in get number here. So the data type we're saying that age will hold is an actual number, not a string. And let's go get input or age input as our ID. And now age will be a variable of a data type, number. And all that simply means is that we can do mathematical operations with it. Once again, age hasn't been declared, so let's go back to variables. Let's identify or declare that at the very top of our page, var age. So now line 1 and 2 is making the formal introductions to these areas of data to be stored, name and age, and down on 25 and 26, we're actually assigning something to them. And we're assigning the actual text that the user typed in. Okay, so again, notice the triangles have gone away. Congratulations, you have declared and assigned your first two variables in JavaScript. Okay. Next up in our program comes the decision making or conditional application. In other words, if age is under 16, if age is between or 16 or 17, or if age is greater than 18. So we want to set up this decision for the computer to make. So head on over to your toolbox, select control, the blue text blocks. And the third block down, notice, has an if statement. Let's drag that in right underneath our variable assignments. And basically an if statement, very, very powerful tool within any programming language. An if statement needs to look at a Boolean conditional reference. That's a lot of language there, but Boolean means it's either going to be true or false. The reference has to make a decision, and if that decision is true, then the block of code inside of the curly brackets, notice after the parentheses, you've got an open curly bracket on line 27 and closed on line 29. Anything inside of that, similar to a function, is read or executed only if this Boolean condition is true. So, as you can imagine, Boolean condition has a little bit of a math feel to it. So let's select the math choice. And we want to go to our first one, which is the less than operator. Let's drag that into the parentheses in if. And you may guess already, now that we have data stored in a variable container named age, we actually want to use that. And we want to say if age is less than 16. Now we want something to happen. Okay, so what exactly do we want to have happen here? Okay, to find that out, let's go back to the actual finished product here, and let's actually carry this out. I'm going to refresh the screen. And And let's enter name first. Let's go with Nora, and we're going to have Nora be age 15. Once those data points are in, now you know that when we hover over learn more, that's going to run the update decision function and move us to the next screen. So learn more takes us to the next screen, and notice what happens. Hello, comma, Nora. Now if I typed in hello, comma, Michael would show up here with the exclamation mark. That's going to be consistent every single time. You will need to wait until age 16. That's going to change based on our decision. Click on the link below for additional details. That will be there as well. So, and that will be consistent for either decision. So what I'm getting at here is we've got one dynamic paragraph here that's going to change. And it's going to be completely different for each decision. The hello Nora up here is the only thing that will change is the actual name. But hello, comma, and name will be consistent irregardless of the decision. Also, click on the link below for additional details. That will be there irregardless of the decision as well. So, guess what? What we're hinting at here is we probably need 2 more variables that will occur no matter what the circumstance is. So, let's go back to our code and come over to our variables toolbox again and scroll all the way to the top. I want to do another assign a variable here. Now, remember where we're at. We are inside of the function, and, well, I also forgot to do something very important. Take a look at this. My function is defined but is not called. Well, guess what? We have update decision here, so we want to make sure that update decision is the name of this and not my function. So let's do that right now. So my function name is changed to update decision, and notice now the little caution triangles go away because now we're calling it here. And once our browser gets to line 5, it will know to go all the way down to line 24 and read the steps here. Okay, so 2 variables that will not be impacted by age. In other words, they will show up irregardless. So we're going to bring in one variable here, and we're going to put it above the if statement. And let's call that results greeting. And let's bring in another one. And let's call that more info. Now, take a look at how I'm typing these names into the variables. Lowercase r, capital G, no spaces, results greeting. That is called lower camel case. That is very common in naming conventions within programming languages. More info, lowercase m, capital I. Guess what, folks? We're getting that triangle again. So that means we want to declare those variables up at the top of our program so that the variables are global, they're introduced and usable throughout the entire program. Remember, if we did the introductions inside of the block of code from 24 to 32 right now, these variables would take on what's called a local scope. Now, it's a little advanced, but all that means is that the variables would only be known inside of that block. If you tried to refer to the variable names outside of it, it wouldn't pick it up. So there are points and purposes for doing that, but right now we want our variables to be declared globally, meaning available to the entire program. So let me drag in 2 declare a variable blocks, and we want to make sure that the naming is correct here. Results greeting and more info, and the only problem that could go wrong here is spelling, so sometimes you may want to go down and copy and paste it from where you called it and bring it up here. Another clue here is those triangles, notice they went away. So we're now introducing 4 variables to the program. Globally at the top, so let's go to functions for a minute and let's bring in a comment that says set global variables. Okay. And notice now I'm building out this top-down programming reference, or this program, I should say. But I'm not doing it in order. You didn't have to come up with the, oh, what variables do I need first, and then put them in. We went based on the on events and said, what do we need? And now, again, we said we needed a results greeting. Let's see. So now we need to, let's go down to more info first and remove that triangle. More info, if you remember, has the statement, click on the link below for additional details. So I want to start typing that right now, but more info is going to take on a string reference. And anytime you have a string reference rather than a number reference, you have to put that in quotes. So let's type in click on the link below for additional information. And let's put a period at the end and then close your quote, and all that nice red stuff goes away now. And here's basically what's happening. That variable, more information, anytime we refer to it, will bring up this sentence, this string. Click on the link below for additional information. That string is bringing in all of the ASCII references, the ones and zeros of what we talked about earlier, for capital C, lowercase l, the spaces, and the period. So more info basically now is having that phrase stored. Next, we want to store the information for results greeting. So let's move our cursor inside of results greeting, and we're going to start with a quote, and we're going to put hello, comma, and a space, and then close that quote. Now, here's what's unique about this. Remember, when we selected Nora, if I chose Michael, I want that to change. So ask yourself, where is the information being stored for the user's name? Well, take a look on line 28. It's being assigned to the variable name. So there is a trick called concatenation with a string, where you could add text that is consistent, hello, comma, and space. Then space and plus. Plus means concatenate. And watch what we're going to do next. Name. Name is not inside of quotes because we want to use the dynamic variable reference from line 28, which means whatever the user types in, it's going to be put into this sentence. Okay. Then space plus, and now we want to open quotes again, and we want that exclamation mark to show up. Exclamation, space, close quote. Okay. That should take care of results greeting. When I click off of that, notice it puts it into kind of a conditional addition. So if we go to Toolbox in Math, it's basically using this function, the add operator. And that add operator is adding string with the variable name with another string of characters, which is just the exclamation and space, into one results greeting. Okay, so we've done a lot here. We've introduced variable names, both string and age. We've introduced a string variable called more info that has a full statement that will not change. And we've also introduced and assigned a variable called results greeting that is a concatenation of a string with a variable and another string. So we've covered a lot. At this point, we're going to stop. Remember, we're still building out the update decision function. We have to now go into the if statement next video. So we'll see you then, everybody.